Is this thing on?
We are going to the Mambo Cabana.
The Mambo the what?
Vivo, this is really important. Martha needs to hear this song.
What difference can one song make?
What difference can one song make? That's the question we're on a mission to answer on the Vivo Songbook, a show where we dive deep into the story and songs of Vivo, the movie from Sony Pictures Animation, now streaming on Netflix. I'm your host, Martina Castro, and today we're going to take a close listen to Keep the Beat to figure out what difference that amazing song makes in the story of Vivo.
The plan was get to a bus. Next thing you know, the two of us are floating, drifting somewhere new.
We pick up where we left off in episode 3, and it is chaos. Vivo and Gabby were headed to Miami when they ran into the Sand Dollars.
Cookies!
Vivo and Gabby missed their bus, managed to somehow land on a sand barge, and if it weren't enough, Gabby sank their only lifeboat. Plan A and Plan B have failed. And now, Vivo is starting to get a little irritated.
We couldn't be more out of sync. This is what in sync sounds like. This is you and me.
But Gabby, she's totally unfazed. She puts together a little raft and has a new brilliant idea. They're going to get to Miami by crossing the Everglades, Florida's beautiful and wild national park. Plan C to get to Miami is on.
I missed the boat completely. Did you see that, Vivo? Hysterical.
In the Everglades, Vivo and Gabby will have no choice but to come together. And to do that, they'll have to bond over the one thing they have in common, their love of music. Can a song bring two people together and get them from creating total chaos to living in harmony? In today's episode, we'll find out as we go on our own tour of Everglades National Park.
It's one of the most diverse areas in the whole entire world.
We'll also go behind the scenes with Vivo sound designer Randy Tom. We'll find out how he took you along Vivo and Gabby's adventure through your ears.
You know, sound is a very emotional thing. Almost any sound that we hear goes straight to our heart.
The power of music to bring us into sync and turn chaos into harmony. That's coming up on the Vivo Songbook.
All I can do at the end of the day is play on, keep the beat.
Okay, buckle your seatbelts because we are traveling with our ears to the very, very southern tip of Florida, to a place that stretches from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. It's called Everglades National Park.
We have now left the urban sprawl of South Florida. Look very carefully, and if you see like a little brown spot popping up, those are alligators.
This is Elaine Fiore. She's an environmental school teacher in Florida, and she's also a tour guide in the Everglades.
If you take a look to your right, looks kind of crazy. You can see that alligator with its mouth open wide. And there's a bird in there, and you would think that bird would be fearing for its life, but the bird's actually making a little stop for lunch. While the bird's eating, it's cleaning out all the alligator's teeth.
These are the kinds of cool things Elaine showed members of the filmmaking team when she took them on a special tour of the Everglades.
To understand the flora, the fauna, how the ecosystem works, what are the animals of the Everglades, who are the people of the Everglades.
With Elaine, the filmmaking team sailed the river. They walked the trails, and they took an airboat tour with members of the Miccosukee, a Native American tribe that has lived in the Everglades for over 150 years. The filmmakers saw a ton of animals and plants, and they took everything in.
They thought it was really cool to be able to draw from a specific place and all the details and the flavor and the energy of it.
And yes, Elaine says all the creatures in Vivo are real, which is hard to believe, right? I mean, in the Everglades, Vivo meets a bird with a beak that looks like a giant spoon.
I'm an invisible spoonbill. No one cares I'm alive. Especially Valentina.
You'd think those birds can't possibly be real, but they are.
Roseate spoonbills are absolutely gorgeous. They call it the spoonbill because obviously the beak is shaped like a spoon. As you look at that roseate spoonbill that's in flight, you could see the beautiful pinks of its feathers and also some of the yellow.
And yes, even that huge snake, Lutador, exists in the Everglades.
What a lovely voice you have. Never seen you around these parts. My name's Lutador. You got a name?
Burmese pythons are snakes that normally live in Southeast Asia. And
Typically, they're about 16 feet. They're huge.
but they ended up here in Everglades National Park.
It was in the 90s when Hurricane Andrew came and decimated South Florida. There just so happened to be a python breeding facility, and it was destroyed in the hurricane. So it released all these Burmese pythons into the Everglades.
That's not great news for Vivo and Gabby. But it's also a sign that something is out of sync in the Everglades.
The Everglades is really the story of man not realizing the value of the natural world and changing it to meet his needs. And it's the story of unintentional consequences.
Did you know the Everglades are home to 2,000 different species of plants and animals, and 70 of those are endangered?
As the sand dollars would tell you, in most wild ecosystems, animals and plants live in harmony. Sometimes they even work together, like the alligator getting its teeth cleaned by the bird. But before the Everglades was a national park, humans started messing with this place.
There was this movement to inhabit all of the land, and the Everglades was thought of as a swamp. It was kind of pesky. There's mosquitoes, there's gators, there's a sawgrass. It could cut you up. And so what people wanted to do was to drain the Everglades so they could build on it. But what they didn't realize was they were inhabiting a river.
A long and winding river that carried water out to the wetlands of South Florida. But the area flooded all the time. People wanted to grow food, build homes, and live there without worrying about floods. So in the 1960s, they decided to change the shape of the main river that used to flow into the Everglades, the Kissimmee River.
And they made it straight so that way the boats could just go straight down the river and get there faster. What they didn't realize is the rivers kind of curve, so that way the water moves through the plants and the bushes and everything else, and it gets filtered and cleaned.
But now all the dirty water coming from houses and agriculture can't get filtered. And that's a problem because millions of people and animals depend on this water. Plus, the new predators that were introduced to this place by humans, they're really messing with the balance of the food chain. Burmese pythons might sound like cool animals, but bringing them to South Florida was not a great idea.
And so now these Burmese pythons have messed up the food system. They're eating all the raccoons. They don't have a natural predator.
You lost a kinkajou in the Everglades? Well, congratulations, Hernandez. You've killed him.
Wait, what?
A kinkajou cannot survive in this environment. His natural predator is every animal in here.
Ugh, rivers that don't run the way they're supposed to, giant snakes eating all the little animals. What did humans do? It sounds like total chaos, right?
We don't realize all the interconnectedness between everything and the importance that everything plays, and how if we change it, it affects the bigger picture.
So, this wild place is out of sync. And here come Gabby and Vivo, who are also not in sync. Can they and the natural world around them find a way to be in harmony with one another? And what do I mean by harmony? Well, in life, harmony is when everybody gets along. And in a place like the Everglades, it's that balance between all the wildlife, the plants and humans, all living happily together. But harmony is also an important part of music. It's where a few notes played separately sound really good together. Ah, nice. That feeling of separate things coming together in harmony is what Vivo and Gabby and humans in the Everglades are all looking for. And guess what? Our next guide is one of the main people responsible for sounding out chaos and harmony in Vivo.
My name is Randy Tom, and I'm the sound designer for Vivo.
So what does that mean? Well, in an animated movie, after you record the voices of the characters with the actors, you still have to put together sounds for every other thing you see in the movie. Sometimes they're real sounds, like the sound of a street or a boat. And they get recorded out in the world. But often, Randy has to create these sounds. For example, he had to come up with a sound for Ludador, the Burmese python, for the moments he moves through the Everglades.
When you put a microphone even very close to an actual snake moving, even if it's a big snake, it makes essentially no sound at all.
That's what I like to hear. Absolutely nothing.
The sound of his body slithering on the ground and up and down trees is mostly sponges that are soaked in water, and then we twist and squeeze the sponge to get what sounds like a kind of slithering and wet and icky sound that feels right for a snake, especially a snake that's supposed to be evil and scary.
Pretty cool, right? When he's not working on Vivo, Randy is the director of sound design at Skywalker Sound, which is pretty much one of the coolest places a sound designer can work. It's a company founded by George Lucas, the creator of the Star Wars movies. And that's where sound designers, just like Randy, came up with some of the most memorable sounds in movies. From Chewbacca's signature growl to the magic potions of Harry Potter. In Vivo, Randy helped put together the sounds for a very important moment in the Everglades. It's when Vivo and Gabby sing the song that brings them closer together. Remember when Vivo and Gabby are just entering the Everglades, gliding through a river on Gabby's makeshift raft? The vibe between them at that moment is not exactly harmonious.
Gabby wants very much to be Vivo's friend, but Vivo is not very interested in being Gabby's friend. He just wants to deliver this song. That's the mission he's on. And if she can help him get there, that's fine with him. But he's not very impressed with her as a musician or a person. But that begins to change around the song Keep the Beat.
The plan was get to a bus. Next thing you know, the two of us are floating, drifting somewhere new.
Hey, Vivo, are you scared? You know, my dad used to sing to me when I was scared.
So did Andres.
Hey, we could sing Martha's song. That would cheer us up.
And I love the moment of them starting to drum together.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda.
And then I wrote the song to exist around that scene, to sort of be a moment for them to come together musically and then be in a different place in their friendship at the end of the song than they were at the beginning.
So Gabby and Vivo each take turns drumming, but not with regular instruments.
The raft that they float on was built by Gabby out of garbage, basically, that she found on this barge that they had been on before.
When Randy sat down to create the sounds for this scene, there weren't any drawings of the raft, and nobody knew what pieces of garbage, instruments, Gabby and Vivo would be using to make music. No one had thought about that yet. That's because Kirk D'Amico, the director, and Lin-Manuel Miranda wanted the music to sound like it really came from the raft itself.
And so they decided that maybe we should start with the sound rather than starting with what it looks like.
So to imagine what the raft would be made of and what the drumming on the raft would sound like, Randy and his team had to get creative. And with the help of a percussionist, they started to explore a few possibilities.
We wanted it to sound like the drumming was happening on these pieces of junk and garbage. And we pulled together all kinds of junk, shovels, old car license plates, plastic water jugs, and the drummer just started, improvising, playing, hitting all these objects.
And eventually, they came up with the best-sounding pieces of junk.
And then the animators used those sounds to decide what the object should look like.
Those are the, quote, instruments you can hear and see in the scene of Keep the Beat. First goes Gabby.
She says, I'm going to teach you how to play drums.
Yeah, that thing you're doing is noise. Observe.
And he's very offended because he considers himself a pretty good drummer and he doesn't think she's a very good drummer.
Wow, you learn quick. I must be a really good teacher.
Follow my lead, kid.
Whoa, this sounds good.
Yeah, I see potential, raw talent.
She really gets in the groove and starts doing some interesting things with the drums.
Come on, Vivo. Let loose, Grandpa.
Grandpa? Could a grandpa do this?
Oh, yeah, Vivo.
Remember the size of the world before. Now it's you and I, just you and I. And now the horizon holds so much more. And it's do or die, yeah, it's do or die.
Slowly but surely, Vivo and Gabby find their rhythm. They're each playing something a little bit different from one another, but somehow it works together.
That's where Vivo first recognizes that Gabby does have a little bit of musical talent. And I think he's a little impressed by that, and he thinks, well, maybe this is somebody who could be my friend and who I could play music with.
All I can do when the plans break down is stay on my feet. And all I can do at the end of the day is play on, keep the beat.
In this moment, Gabby and Vivo go from I to we as they commit to keeping the beat together. And a new chapter of Vivo and Gabby's friendship begins.
Before the Everglades, Vivo and Gabby were completely out of sync in every way. With Keep the Beat, they're starting to find a way to communicate with each other. That's where they begin to both be in sync and to harmonize with each other, both musically and in terms of their lives.
Again, here's Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I listen to Keep the Beat and I think about where I was in time, which was we were in the middle of this lockdown, in the middle of this pandemic. And the future of this movie wasn't clear. The future of the world wasn't clear. And when I look back on the lyrics, it's so about not only where Vivo and Gabby are, but also about where I was in that moment of like, when the world changes your plans, what do you do? That to me is what that song is. It's a testament to resilience. It's a testament to leaning into the curve. It's a testament to just continuing to keep going, even when the world abruptly changes your plans.
Wait, but what about the environment of the Everglades? After all the damage done, will there ever be a chance for us to get back in sync with nature in this special place? As it turns out, there might be. In the early 2000s, some really great humans decided it was time to correct some of the actions from the past and try to save the Everglades. Here's Elaine Fiore again, the guide who took us on the tour.
Everyone came together and said, we have to do something to kind of correct what had happened. So Everglades National Park is now half the size of the historic Everglades, but that land has been preserved.
Today, the government is going back in, this time to recurve the river that they made straight years ago so that the Everglades can flow more naturally and do the job it used to do, protect the species that live there and clean the water that everyone in Florida depends on.
We can never restore the Everglades to its full beauty. However, we can restore it so it is in some type of balance that both man and the creatures in Everglades can both live here peacefully.
Now that is a harmony that the Sandollars, Vivo, and Gabby would be very proud of. Next time on the Vivo Songbook, after barely escaping Ludador, Vivo and Gabby continue their journey to Miami, where Marta becomes totally heartbroken when she hears the news about Andres.
I understand, but Marta is taking this really hard. Yes, she says she can't go on.
We'll sit down with musical legend Gloria Estefan, who gives voice to Marta. She'll tell us how this special character found her way inside her heart.
Marta is kind of the embodiment of the Cuban spirit.
The power of music to heal a broken heart. Next time on the Vivo Songbook. And don't miss our latest bonus-ode. We'll show you how you and your friends can create harmony together with sound designer Randy Tom. Oh, and of course, if you want to spot all the things we talked about in this episode, you can still watch or rewatch or rewatch Vivo, streaming now on Netflix.
The plan was get to a bus. Next thing you know, the two of us are floating, drifting somewhere new. She said we'd take a shortcut. I'm trying to be a good sport, but I don't see how we make it through.
This episode of the Vivo Songbook was written by Martine Chaussard, who's also our lead producer and sound designer. Our editor is Natasha Ruck. Luis Gill is our production manager and mastering engineer. And we had additional mixing and sound design from Giovanna Romano Sanchez. Special thanks to Adonde Media's Mariano Pachela, to Garth Burkhardt and Paige Borsos from Sony Pictures Animation, Charlie Yater from Sony Music, and to our consultants, Natasha Crandall from Crandall Consulting, and Andrew Barkan and Polly Hall from the Ear Snacks podcast. And most importantly, thank you to the entire Vivo filmmaking team. The Vivo Songbook is produced by Adonde Media for Netflix and Sony Pictures Animation. I'm your host and executive producer, Martina Castro. Nos vemos.